This video is going to be on a concept from my last sermon on YouTube about how the Lord spoke to me, Matthew chapter 23, verse 3, last week when I asked him what he wanted me to preach on for the video. So the verse, like I said, is Matthew chapter 23, verse 3, but it starts with a therefore. So the first two verses indicate that Jesus is speaking to the multitude and his disciples. And then in verse 2, he says, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. And then verse 3 comes into play where he says, therefore, whatever they tell you to observe, that observe and do. But do not do according to their works, for they say and do not do. What does this mean? The basic principle here is that Jesus is saying the spiritual authority of the scribes and Pharisees, religious leaders of the time, they were given that spiritual authority handed down by God through Moses. Even though Jesus rebuked them later on in this chapter, he is respecting their spiritual authority that they were given through Moses by God. But he says, what they tell you to observe, that do. But what did the Pharisees tell them to observe? The law and the prophets. The Pharisees claimed they were Moses' disciples. They claimed to follow the law and the prophets. We know that they did not. So what Jesus is saying here is, observe the law and the prophets, what the Pharisees tell you to do, but since they don't do it themselves, don't follow after their fruit. Again, Jesus is referring to fruit. The Bible says you will know them by their fruit.